we've noticed that your questions fell into 6 main themed areas, and so we're going to cover those one at a time. And the first one, I suppose, not surprisingly, is where it all began. So when did scientists, or when did we first realize that there is a problem with the climate? We received lots of questions on this topic, and we're going to hear from 2 young people, Noah and Layla, who've asked questions that actually many of you asked.
Hi, Professor Brian Cox. My name's Noah from English Matters, and my question is, at what time did climate change start to get worse?
Pwy sydd wedi darganfod bod y newid mewn hinsawdd yn digwydd asset? Who discovered that the climate was changing and how?
Well, thank you, Noah and Layla, for those wonderful questions. And also thank you to Layla for asking the question in Welsh and then translating her question from Welsh into English, because my Welsh certainly isn't what it should be. So the first question, I think, to Emily is when did we, and indeed when did you first become aware that there is a problem with the climate?
Yeah, thank you, Brian. So Noah asked this really good question of where did it all begin? And it really all began with the Industrial Revolution. That's the time when we all started using machines to help us go about our daily lives. And those machines are all powered by what we call fossil fuels. That's coal or oil or gas. And when you burn fossil fuels, you produce carbon dioxide. So when we started using those machines about 200 years ago or so to help us with our lives, we started putting more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And actually, about the same time, scientists started to understand that if you put more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, you would warm the world. And over the course of the past 200 years, our understanding of that has increased. And the first time that scientists got together and really raised the alarm bells around climate change was in 1990, so just over 30 years ago. And that was when the world was alerted to the dangers of climate change.
Thanks, Emily. It does seem like, to me, not so long ago. I mean, 30 years, it seems like yesterday to me. Mark, when do you, or what do you remember of becoming aware that there is a climate emergency, that there is a problem with the climate?
Thanks, Brian. And again, there's some great questions. I suppose when I was a teenager at school, especially learning chemistry and so on, I learned about things like the sulfur cycle and the different, the nitrogen cycle. So in other words, I had an awareness that chemicals can affect our environment. But it was actually, in fact, when I was at university studying the atmosphere that I then understood about how carbon dioxide in particular can affect the temperature of the Earth, and how that in turn can influence climate. So again, that was probably around 20 years or so ago, which may seem a long time for some, but within a human lifetime, it's certainly relatively short. And especially if we look in terms of how long the planet has been around, it's really a short time scale. So that's why there is a sense of urgency to try and address these issues.
And Lindsay, what were the first signs that you're aware of an impact in terms of climate?
Well, Brian, so I'm 50 years old, and that's half a century. That's how long I've lived, and I was born in 1970. And when I was just a young child, I was about 6, we moved from Scotland to Manchester. And that year, 1976, was incredibly hot. And in fact, it's one of the hottest and driest summers that we've ever seen in Britain. And I thought, wow, I've hit the jackpot moving here. Manchester is a really hot and sunny place. It turned out I was wrong about that. But what's happened over my lifetime is those slightly freakish summers have got more and more common. And certainly through the 1990s, so that's, maybe only 20 or 30 years ago, those summers became more and more of a common thing. And so that That's something I've really noticed. So very hot, dry summers being incredibly rare to becoming really quite common. You know, the lawn used to be soggy for sort of 10 months of the year, and it's only in July and August maybe when you could walk on it without it squelching under your feet. And now that just doesn't happen. It's brown and dry. So it's not just that the climate's changed, but we can see this impact on the animals and plants that are living in our environments, in our gardens and around us. And definitely in my lifetime, I've really seen those things change really quite alarmingly quickly.